Well, good morning again. I am Christy Hurt, and do you like that really uplifting video that we just had? If you are reading the Bible with us, we are in the middle of Job. And we were talking about during our Dream Team huddle this morning, to be totally honest, for me, Job is one of the hardest books because it is just about grief, about misery, for what seems like no purpose sometimes. So if you are reading with us, I'm just going to tell you, just keep going. Just keep doing it. I did put on our Facebook page, those of you that are on Facebook, I found a really great video from Spoken Word that shows kind of a trial scene of Job. It's about 10 minutes long, so it was too long to show here. But if you are reading with us, I encourage you to look at that and watch that video because it does kind of put some things in perspective and make it a little bit easier to understand in some ways, even though suffering and misery is not ever going to be easy for us to understand. So today, to get started, we are going to look at Job. I did want to say just one more time, I'm not going to say this every week, but since we're still, the beginning of the year, we are, as a church, reading the Bible together. We have different groups that are reading together. We are using what's called the Bible Recap, which you can get on the Bible app, you can get on YouTube, you can go to thebiblerecap.com to their own page, and it is what is called a chronological Bible. So we started in Genesis, but we are not finished with Genesis. We went into Job, so it's in kind of a time period time. You can read the Bible through any way that you want. I encourage you to read the Bible every day. But just so you know, that's the plan that as a church we're following. So all of my sermons are going to be based on that. So if you want to read the week ahead what we're going to be talking about, you want to stick with that plan. So before we get started today on Job, we're going to be looking at someone who has one line in the entire Bible and is completely judged for that one line. And if you were here for our Dream Team huddle, you got your feet wet a little bit with some of these, but these are just from movies. I have some famous one-liners from movies. And we're pretty laid back here at the Well, so I'm going to say a line, and I just want you to yell out where you think that movie is from. And like I said, these are all movies. I am your father. So it's good. We've got the answers right back here. Good. From which Star Wars is that? Thank you, Empire. I knew that would be important to some people, so I wanted to make sure that was on there. So, and did you notice I said the correct line too? I didn't add the link in there. So I know, I gotta, I know my audience. Life is like a box of chocolates. Good. I see dead people. Sixth Sense, which is my number one on this list. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Good. And just one more. And this is very special. I think he's counting the kids, so you have to tell him that I did this one because this is not special to my heart, but special in my house. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. I heard it back there somewhere loud. Notting Hill, that's right. That is Mark's favorite movie ever. It's just not mine. Okay, so today we're going to explore a powerful lesson about how just one line, one interaction can change our perception or give us a perception of someone. Now, I'm sure that we have all done this, if we admit it. Sometime in our life, that one interaction, one word has made us think about someone in a certain way. And I remember, and it's so funny because this was brought up in Sunday school today, and I already had it written in my notes, and it's funny because it's from forever ago. But I think it was maybe 2005 or 6. It was a long time ago. Mark and I were living in Dallas. And is anybody familiar with the author Shane Claiborne? I don't know if you guys know him at all. He still is. He's an author that is a Christian author that is very big on marginalized people, on the poor, different ways to help them. He actually started a whole community in Philadelphia that they just kind of all live together and support each other. You know, they've sold all of their things and they work together. Well, at that time in my life, I was just enraptured by him. I read everything that he did. I just thought he was just amazing. We literally sold our house. Like, there were just things that I loved him. And I finally got to go to just a really small conference in Dallas in which he was speaking. And Francis Chan, I don't know if some of you may be familiar with him. Back then, he was there too. So, Shane Claiborne spoke. I just thought, he was amazing. It was a very small conference. So afterwards, we were able to go up to tables and talk to them. And it's almost like a celebrity, or again, I know my audience, so maybe like Comic-Con, when you get to different things. But I was so excited to meet him and to see about him. And so I went up to his table, and I will say, I was probably one of the last people. I was towards the end, and I went up to his table, and his, the work and the writing that he does is all about seeing people and seeing who they are and taking time with them. Well, when I went up to him, he was looking over my shoulder the whole time. He was looking at his watch. He was completely not paying any attention to anything I said. He was just, I had maybe a 2-minute interaction with him, if that. But I was so anti-Shane Claiborne after that. I was like, everything he's written is false. He doesn't think that. It's terrible. And even we had to read some things in my class last semester from him. And this is, 20 years ago. And I still kind of felt some of that, oh yeah, he started, he went to war-torn nations and helped people, whatever. That is true. But I still just, that one interaction just gave me a negative view about him. I have maybe he was supposed to speak in 2 minutes. Maybe he just I have no idea what happened in that interaction, but I allowed that 2 minutes with him to change my whole perception of who he was. And so that is a time that I felt like that on someone else. But I know in our own lives, sometimes we have been misinterpreted. Maybe we said something when we were angry, or we said something that we totally didn't even realize something was going on. I just remembered, this isn't in my notes, I just remembered this. I had a friend, and if you know me very well, this probably happens to me a lot, that I'm misunderstood and then people get mad at me. But I had a friend that had something that I thought was funny happen to her son, and other people also thought it was funny. And I made a little meme about it just to her and sent it to her. And she didn't speak to me for 3 years. She was so upset. And my intention was to, make her feel better about it, but it did not. So I feel like probably all of us can come up with a time that we unintentionally hurt someone, or someone misunderstood something that we were saying, or that we had a bad perception about someone after just one interaction with them. So we are going to look at someone in Job who just had one line, who is usually forgotten. And this is Job's wife. She is the only woman in the book of Job. A lot of times, especially if you're reading and you're listening to Tara-Leigh Cobble, or you read about Job, they talk a lot about his friends, and his friends that give him not the best advice on different things. But Job's wife and her one line doesn't really come up a lot. So before we get started, I just want to give you, in case you're not reading, some context about Job. So Job it says he is blameless and upright in Job 1:8. So he is this honorable man that has all of these horrible things happen to him. All of his children die. All of his property and his wealth is all taken away. His health is gone. So in this tragedy, what we're going to come on right now is I just picture him. The Bible doesn't exactly say what it all looks like, but I picture him just with, just laying on the ground, boils all over his body, tears pouring. Obviously this is not true, but I imagine, smoke still from all of his property. His children are all dead, and he's just laying there so upset. And along comes his wife. And we're just going to read one line from Job today. And this is in Job 2:9. His wife comes along when he's in this misery, and his wife said to him, "Are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die." Now, like we said, we don't know what his wife was thinking at this time. This has come, people have said really, really bad things about his wife. But I want us to think for just a minute that his wife also has just lost all of her children. His wife has also just lost, it's not her property, but because she's his wife, it would be her home, her, everything too. The Bible doesn't say anything about her health being hurt, but she, has lost all of these things, and she comes upon her husband just lying there in misery and says this. So I first want us to think that we often judge people by their worst moment, rarely considering the context of their distress. So we think about Job's wife. This is the only time it mentions Job's wife in the Bible. So we don't know her before. We don't know what happened to her after this. But we can kind of get the idea that this is probably a really, really bad moment in her life also. But she is judged by that. And that's the same thing that sometimes we do. We hear one thing from someone, or we see them do one thing, and we judge them based on that worst moment in their life. A single sentence can define someone's perceptions of someone else. Now, I don't know how much you have heard about Job's wife, but she has been called the helper of the devil. And I looked up what different kind of church historians have said, and they said that she has been called a scourge by which the plague of Job is more acute than any other means, which means that she was the one that was supposed to love him, but she comes to him like this. I've even heard comedians say that, everything was taken away from Job except for his wife. And so his wife must be so bad that to leave her there would cause more suffering on him. But we don't really know. I want us to think about just our culture today. Like I said, one of my things that I really want as we're doing this, as we're looking through the Bible, to look at how this applies today, to what we're going through today. And we live in a cancel culture today. That people can say one thing, can post one thing, can have one image up, and they are canceled for, all kinds of different things. So I just really quick ran a Google search of just within the last few years, some people who have been canceled, some people that hopefully we would all know. J.K. Rowling, who is the author of the Harry Potter books, who I love very much. Well, I love the books very much. But she encountered heavy criticism for comments perceived as transphobic, particularly back in 2020, during when everything was crazy at that time. Chris Harrison, who used to be the host of The Bachelor, had to step down in 2021 because he was defending a contestant's racist social media post that was going on. Justin Bieber, this is quite a while ago, but Justin Bieber faced backlash for some past racist videos, and he had to publicly apologize. So that's one thing too, especially with social media that's coming up. People are being judged by things that they did years and years and years and years and years ago, and we don't exactly know why. And Alfonso Ribeiro, who I loved from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who's now Dancing with the Stars, he actually faced backlash after defending his own position on cultural appropriation. He defended something that he said and faced backlash for that. And then one of the most famous ones is that slap heard round the world from Will Smith whenever he slapped Chris Rock, on the Oscars. Immediately he lost his Oscar, all of that stuff, everything that was going on. And I'm not saying that any of these people did the right thing. Honestly, I didn't research beyond just that they were canceled, but I wanted to point out that our culture right now a lot of times doesn't go beyond what someone said or what someone did in a moment's time, that they just immediately were done with that person. And we see that in our own lives, especially, I think, since 2020. Our politics, just everything on social media, people just say things and then post things and say things back. And you may have people that you were close to 2 years ago that you can't stand each other because of one meme that you posted or something like that. It's just, we're so quick to judge. But at the same time, our words do have meaning. So we do need to think about what we say, because the power of one line can last much longer than just that moment itself. Matthew 12:36 reads, "But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word that they have spoken." And I love that verse because we will have to give account for what we have said, but so will other people. But we're not the people that are going to judge them for the word that they said. They are going to have to give an account because God knows their heart. God knows where they're coming from. We don't always know that. But we should take that as a warning that us ourselves need to think about what comes out of our mouths. Many of us do carry those wounds. I know some of you might hit hard because there might be some people that have said something to their family or have said something and people have just dropped them because of that one thing that they have said. I have had people in my life that have done that. And sometimes it's things I said accidentally. Some things it's things that I said that they needed to hear and didn't want to hear. But sometimes we have that hurt that comes from that. But what I want us to look like is what was Job's wife? Like I said, we don't know. She has one line. There's nothing else about her in Scripture. So we don't know what was going on with her. But I want to kind of look at what is going on in Job and kind of think maybe why her character is there. What is going on? So Job's friend, so Job is in misery. All of these things have been happening to him. And his friends keep coming to him and telling him the reasons why they think that he is having to go through all this stuff. And most of it is because they think it's his fault. They're terrible friends. They don't encourage him in any way. They just keep saying horrible things to him. So Job's wife, when he comes on here, and I think maybe this is because I'm a wife, This is a shout out to my husband. I don't ever have to encourage my husband to do anything. I usually have to encourage my husband to slow down. But one of the things that I think is that imagine his wife, all of this stuff's happening. He's laying there moaning and in misery. And I tend to think, like I said, I'm interjecting from the rest of Scripture. We don't know. This is just what she could be thinking, is that maybe she's just like, get up, talk to God, do something about this, like figure out what's going on. You're crying about what God's doing to you, but you're not crying to God. Like, figure this out, like get up, do something. Now, there are stories in other cultures about Job's wife. So especially at this time period, there were lots of oral traditions. So people would, take not just the Bible, but take other stories and kind of add to them. So one of the things that as I was reading kind of some of these other stories that different people, different cultures, especially a Greek culture during this time, or after, whenever they would read this later, would talk about Job's wife. They actually believed that she was suffering just like Job was. Kind of like we talked about, her children died too. Her house, all the property that she lived in also was taken away. And she was the one that was feeding him and was caring for him. It doesn't say that, but he's not dead. So somebody had to be taking care of his wounds. Somebody had to be getting him his food. And in that time period, that would have been the wife's job. So it's understandable to think that that is probably true. Like I said, it's not from the Bible, so we can't say for sure, but that would make sense in that culture. Many people, like I said, they would tell stories about how she would go around because they had to buy some food and they didn't have any money. So she would go around and she would try to clean for people in the village. She would beg people for money. But people thought, just like his friends, that it was Job's fault that he was going through the suffering that he was. So no one would give her money. No one would help her out. And there's even one story that said that she eventually had to cut her hair to make money to be able to feed herself and Job. Now, like I said, that is just storytelling of the culture. That's not from the Bible. But I do think it's interesting because we don't know her background, just to think about, I wonder what she was going through. I wonder what her life was like. And that is one idea culturally that could have been going on. And I think it's so hard to just look at how she was judged so harshly. She could have been really mean. She could have walked up and said, get up, curse God. She could have been the horrible person that she has made out to be. But I want us just to think that we don't know. We don't know what was going on. So what are we going to do with this? What are some lessons that we can learn from this one line from Job's wife? And I think the very first one that we can learn is compassion. Recognize that her words stem from suffering and not necessarily, like I said, we don't know for sure, but not necessarily unfaithfulness. Most people that talk about her and Job talk about her being faithless, but we don't know that. And so I looked at that word curse. I did a study on that, and the word in Hebrew is actually barak. But it doesn't actually mean curse. That word actually means bless. But when they would use the word barak as bless, it was like a blessing for something bad, kind of in a sarcastic way. Like if you're from the South and it's like, bless her heart, that kind of bless. Or if you walk outside and you're like, oh, God blessed us with another 4 feet of snow, or that kind of idea, that it actually means bless, but it was used sarcastically. It was translated into the word curse because in English, that is what most authors thought that she, was saying to curse God. But if you think about it as a sarcastic blessing, that kind of does go a little bit with the idea that she was suffering. She was in pain too. She was at kind of her wit's end herself, and is like, just, curse God, just bless God, just do something with God. Get up and have a conversation with God so we can move from here and we can figure out what is going on. So first we can learn compassion. And we can think about what the words mean, what they're actually saying. The second thing that we can do is we can learn mercy. Mercy for other people in our lives. Instead of condemning, we should extend grace. And I love the song that Caden sang today when it talked about grace and about mercy. Because if we think about all the things that we have done in our lives, all the thousands, millions of words that we have said, the actions that we have taken against God, and he still has grace and mercy for us. And those things we meant. There's things that we do in our life that we meant to do wrong, we meant to say. But we can't extend that same grace and mercy to someone else that we don't even know what's going on in their lives. Think about you're at Target, and the woman in front of you pops off about something, yells at you, yells at somebody, gets mad at somebody, and your instant is, well, at least my instant, maybe some of you have a little bit more fruit of the spirits that are coming out yet, but it's just to just get back. That BMV worker, and you're going in just trying to get your title, just trying to get your license renewed, whatever, and they're so rude to you. Or maybe a family member forgets your birthday, forgets something in your life, and you're so hurt and you're so upset. But we don't take a moment to think about what maybe is going on in that person's life. That, I won't ever forget. Sorry, this just came to my head. I remember this might be a little too much information. I was going to a doctor, a specialty doctor who also delivers babies. And I remember I was in her office and I had to wait in her office. I remember it was like an hour and 15 minutes in the actual, not just the waiting room, like the actual, room where they come and see you. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, does she just want to waste my time? Does she just not, all of this stuff? And I love my doctor. She's happy, bouncy, she's just great. She came in and I could tell, she had been crying. She was so upset. And I just asked her, what's wrong? And she had just had to tell a couple that they lost their baby just right before me. And I was so convicted. I was I just prayed with her. I was like, I'm so sorry because I was mad at you, but I had no idea that you were just, there's a couple that is probably still in that room now that is, in unimaginable pain, and you had to walk them through that. And I'm just mad because for no reason, I didn't have anywhere to go. And so I think it's really important that we think about that. We think about where other people are in their lives. Because yes, there are evil people in this world. There are mean people in this world. There are people who want to hurt you, want to, get under your skin. But I truly believe, honestly, both Christians and non-Christians, that most people in this world are just trying to do their best. They're just trying to get through the day with all the responsibilities they have, all the things that are going on in their lives. And we all have bad days. And so I think it's so important when we think about this and we think about the mercy that we can extend to others and think about the mercy that Jesus gives us. Sometimes we just got to give people a break, and just say, okay, let them yell at you. Let them, just go and we're fine. The last one is empathy. So she can teach us about compassion, about mercy, and then finally about empathy. When others react out of hardship, take a moment and listen and seek to understand rather than immediately condemn. So sometimes people are going to tell you something, and you can immediately shut down. And you can feel yourself doing that. I feel like that's something that we've probably all done. Someone is trying to come to you with something, and you just shut down. And it could be something that you need to hear, or it could be something that they just need to say or don't really need to say. But take a minute and just listen to where they may be coming from. They may not be coming from the place that they think that they're coming from. I remember there was a book that I read quite a few years ago. It was called Healing the Orphan Spirit. And it was so good because it talked about how we're all orphans, how we all, even if we had, awesome mom and dad growing up, that we're all orphans because we all need to be adopted into God's family. And so there are all these people running around that are looking for something, that have that orphan spirit still, that are looking for something. And sometimes they speak out of that orphan spirit. And sometimes we have to, like that old saying, hurt people hurt people. Sometimes if you're really looking, you have to look beyond what they're saying and try to get to the reasons why they're saying that. Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus could look at people and understand what their question was, understand what their hurt. And our job is to be as much like Jesus as we can. So instead of instantly, when someone says something we don't like, instead of instantly judging them or instantly condemning them for whatever they're saying, take a moment and think about why and really listen to what they have to say. I think one of the biggest ways we see this today is social media. And I'm still on social media because I want to share all my pictures of all of my friends, like of my kids or everything to all my friends. But sometimes the comments and the things that people say, because I think that we feel like on social media that we are anonymous, that we can say whatever we want, that especially I think like I'm on TikTok a lot, sorry. But some of the comments on there that are just, people say horrible things to each other for no reason. And I think that it's that anonymity. And I think that is one of the things about being together with people. We talked about that 8 Sundays. I think that being in a community of a church like this is awesome, but also just being in a community of people and start to listen to what other people are going through. We were not made to be anonymous. We were made to be known by other people and know other people also. So think about that. Think about where people are coming from. And it's the same, that will help us too. If you allow people into that deep spot, that hurt spot, and allow them to understand what you're going through, then they will also show you more grace. They'll be more understanding when you might say things that might feel hurtful or might, just rub someone the wrong way. So this week was super practical. And like I said, we had one sentence from Job today. That's all that we read. But I think that this is something that is so important in our culture today. So I want us to look at just this next week. I'm just going to pray for all of us. I'm not actually going to ask for a response today because I really feel like this is something we all face, that we all look at sometime. Some of us are going to have to go to Walmart after church today for something. And we're going to face people that are going to drive us crazy. And so I just want us, I'm going to pray for us as a body to just go out and show that light. Does that mean you have to give everybody you walk past a hug and tell them Jesus loves them? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just take a minute and just be like, okay, I can just let this go and just go on with my day. Lord, thank you so much for your word. Thank you that we could read the Bible in a year for 1,000 years and never stop learning from you. And just thank you that you give us your word. And help us in this next week to first understand our own words. And first, even if we're upset, if we're, times of just frustration in our own lives, help us to give a moment and have some self-control for the words that come out of our own mouths. And help us, if we do say something, to be able to go to someone and say, I'm sorry, that I know that came off wrong, that is not what I meant. But also, even more, help us as we are just in the world that you created. Help us see everyone the way you see them, because every person is your creation and is someone that you love and that you want to adopt, that you want to follow you. And so help us see them, no matter what they say, no matter what they do. Help us to see them in the way that you see them and to love them with your love, because we know how much you have forgiven us for and how much we need to just give that same grace and mercy to others. Thank you so much for just your love. We love you so much. In your name, amen.